Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and all of you are my co hosts that make this channel possible. I really appreciate it. So, guys, thank you very much for being here, and we continue our world building series where we're using the classic schools of magic or categories of magic in our classic Dungeons and Dragons as our fuel. In many ways, our barriers, our guardrails on our way to world building. And today we are delving into divination magics in tabletop role playing games, especially, of course, Dungeons and Dragons. We've previously done abjuration, protection magics, defensive spells, wards, and wardings, and we also have done conjuration. Mind you, an hour on this subject isn't enough time. I understand. Hey Vince, what's going on? An hour is not enough time. Not enough time. But I really appreciate you guys being here, and of course, those of you who cannot be here too often, you of course are always welcome to join us. So let's see. Let's pull this up here. D&D Beyond. Let's see. Trying to find all of the things. It doesn't matter. All right. Yeah. You already went there. Vince says, always as Americans where it is so early this time. It's high noon in Germany. I should start a shout out where you're from, or like where you're at kind of thing. I don't know. Maybe I do that. Yeah, like Michael says, it's 7 a.m. here. Maybe I will get into that one of these days. I should have done that years ago. Years ago. Big Brother is watching you. Yeah. I think when it comes to divination magics, I think we pretty much are going to go towards the Big Brother. Everyone's watching. You can't hide, and the desire to get from under the spotlight. And of course, when you're being watched, it's not just being watched; it's being watched and judged. That's the big deal. Oh man! And then Cam. Cam's like, I'm in Washington. It's 3 a.m. Wow. You guys. Ooh, and I thought I got up at the crack of dawn. Okay. All right. So, divination magic. Now, we understand that divination magic, the big part of divination magic, of course, is predicting the future, understanding the tendrils of the fates, and the idea, we've seen this plenty of times in intellectual properties, whether I have to agree with Mike here on this one. Whether we are predetermined, there's a predestination of all of our actions that we can never change the things that are going to happen in the future, or that we can change the things that we see that might happen in the future. And then there's this middle ground where there's the self-fulfilled prophecy. And of course, like Vince mentions, yeah, obvious Minority Report comment here. Of course, Minority Report. But let me go to another classic that's even more classic than classic. I didn't know that. Mike brings up Ravenloft is based on divination. The Taroka deck sets the story. I forgot about that. That's right. Okay, so there is and I've gotten to this before. Tesla Ranger, who's one of the moderators, always pops in a trope. So forgive me on this, because this is the Oedipus Rex story that's very classic, has been reframed and redone plenty of times. But essentially, it says that whenever anyone tries to avert a prophecy for good or ill, the end result of their actions is to bring the prophecy about. The harder they struggle to prevent it, the more inescapable their destiny becomes. Fate, it seems, loves irony. Strangely, the other side of this, where the prophecy is fulfilled because someone wants to fulfill it, is rarely explored in fiction. When a hero tries to prevent the prophesied release of like an ancient evil, their actions will help it escape because you can't fight fate. When the big bad tries to slaughter all the members of a given people in order to kill the one among them who is prophesied to end them, they will only manage to create the hero that they fear because destiny says so. There's always that idea. The archetypical older than feudalism example is the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex. A prophecy says the king will be killed by his own son, so the king orders his infant son killed. Instead, the son isn't killed, but is sent to a different location. Oedipus is rescued and brought up not knowing he's the prince. 20 years later, he learns his fate, that he will kill his father and marry his mother. Wanting to protect his adoptive family, who he believes are his natural parents, Oedipus leaves home, fearing that he might kill his adopted father and marry his adopted mother. On the road, he meets his biological father, whom he doesn't recognize naturally, gets into an argument, and kills him. Shortly thereafter, he comes to the city his father ruled and frees them from the Sphinx. As a reward, Oedipus is made king of the city and marries the widowed queen, his own mother. And that's basically like that idea. Okay. And Dead Man's mentioned that the music doesn't come across on Discord. Yeah, the idea that there are, I could imagine like, let's go back to the Council of Seven, right? You've got rulers, nobles, kings, totalitarian governments or whatever, and I could absolutely see them like being surrounded by oracles who are there to predict their futures. Like, well, every day they wake up, they're just like, yawn, brush teeth. Oracles, will I be killed today? And then they have to answer those questions. And then that's when the tendrils of fate start to go, when they try to avoid the oracles that have predicted their futures whenever there's a bad situation, and then them trying to get the heck out of it. Yeah. Yep. Vince mentions that is mentioning that, well, divination is all about information gathering. So in a world based on it, secrets would be a currency. Oh, hell yes. If you have the ability to keep a secret, whether it's you have the power to resist the scrying, the divination, or you have a specific skill set that allows you to manipulate the divination, or maybe you're just very good at it. You just happen to be a nondescript individual, or something like that. Being able to trade secrets and having ways to exchange those secrets, I think. Yeah. Ooh. A world where everyone knows when they will die. Well, there was a television show that lasted for a short amount of time. I want to say it was called The Event. I might be mistaken which television show it was, where everyone in the world at the exact same moment passes out and has a vision of the future, where and when they will be at a specific time and date in the future. And the whole show was about how society changed and became manipulated, because some people were trying to avoid their futures, others were trying to avoid them, run away from them, prevent them. Others were running towards them. Many were afraid of what would happen if that happened. And it was the Oedipus Rex story where, like, this young gentleman found out that he was going to be madly in love with this young Asian woman, and so he went to Japan to go find her because he he knew he would be having lunch or dinner or something with her. Come to find out that he should have never gone to Japan in the first place because she lived in his hometown in California, because he mistakenly thought that she lived in Japan. So he kept avoiding her this entire time. He could have met her 30 seconds after he had that image, but because it was supposed to happen months from now, he ended up avoiding her, and so that kind of thing. So yeah, oh yeah, I absolutely think that's the case. Hmm. Yeah, you're all right. Um, oh, where's here we go? Because I'm starting to miss a little bit of chat. Here we go. The Mike Gould says um, one could use the deck of many things as a divination tool instead of conjuring stuff. One could say these results are destined to happen in the future. Essentially, a Taroka deck for other settings. And there's a really cool, strange kind of self railroading effect that future events could happen by giving player characters a bonus to do a thing if the thing actually happens in the first place, right? Like, oh, you get an advantage on your athletics check if you're hanging off of a cliff. Well, if they're not around any cliffs, they're never going to get that advantage. So maybe player characters might railroad themselves to find a cliff to hang off of simply to get a bonus to do the thing, right? Yeah. So absolutely. Vince even mentions that you could also make it so that on on birth, an oracle basically tells you what you have to do your entire life: job, spouse, number of kids, location, etc., and is frowned upon should you ignore it. I love that. I love that idea. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And Mike responds like, "Ooh, so divination is tied to a caste system." The oracles themselves might be outside the caste system, but others are expected to fall into your prophecy, and if you try to avoid it, you're like, there's something wrong with you, or ooh, yeah, 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 I like that. Maybe PCs are those without a destiny. I'm feeling that. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe the PCs are those without a clear prophecy. Perhaps the destineless. I'm feeling that. I'm really feeling that idea, like, because they're outside the system, and the system could work if people are actually happy when despite the fact that they want to try so hard not to be part of it. If they're happy about it, they could be like, yeah. Ooh, Patchwork Grace is the Unbound. All right, hold on. Dead Man says, King talking to the Oracle. When will I die? Oracle says, in the future. The king turns to walk away and the oracle stabs him in the back, says, it is now the future. I'm loving that. Oh, man, thanks for the coffee there, Harry. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Cassandra strikes again. Thank you so much, thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. It's weird because it doesn't come up like it would in YouTube, but all right, I guess that's how it shows in. I guess that's how it shows up in Restream. All right, yeah. Patchwork Gray mentions the Unbound. I love it. I love it as well. And now we're talking about role playing games here, so absolute concrete predestination is probably a thing you could never insert into the game, but it would be rather ironic to have like your players show up and do like the, I don't know, person place thing rule, or like animal vegetable mineral rule, where you have to come up with side note, there's a small game called Everyone is John, and the game is played where all the players are the personalities inside of someone named John, and you win the game by making deals and trying to assert your influence by having John fulfill a number of actions. And you win by having John fulfill those actions. It would be pretty interesting to run a game where the players have to show up each game and they have to have a number of predetermined actions happen, and then you mix them up amongst everyone and then pass them out. Like someone has to eat a chicken leg, someone has to buy a new pair of boots. Someone helps a small child, lost child go home or something, and then every time more and more of these things actually happen, that they get some kind of like benefit or inspiration or moxie or hero points, whatever you're using in your game. And so the players start to kind of like, when they see a small child on the road, they automatically go up to them and they're just like, "Can I help you home, kid?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, I'm lost. I can't find my mommy." And the player's like, "Cha-ching! Yeah, I got another fate point. Great, boom!" And you're just like, "Wait," when normally they would, the player may just ignore that kid. It would be pretty interesting to do that. I love it. A child. Ooh, what? There we go. Okay. Mike Gould mentions a child destined to be an oracle who doesn't want to be an oracle because of the responsibility becomes the key to the campaign. Divination brings about a ton of MacGuffin type stories, right? Where, like, of course, the insert comment here about Minority Report, a group of oracles together work, but if you separate the oracles, they don't work. Like they have to, it's the classic number three, where you have an odd number of individuals, usually three. You could go higher than that, but if you take one of them away, now all of a sudden their oracle powers are gone. Irregardless of the character class oracle or the clerical ability to commune with the gods or something. Maybe a lot of these things aren't possible in the classic sense, but they're more possible in a narrative sense, where there's rituals, or they're born to it, or they have a birthmark, or they must be brought before the Council of Seven or they have to go through training to become a oracle or something like that. You're so silly there, Mike. Ooh. Yeah, like Pat, you guys are bringing up the idea of like Patchwork Gray mentions, or multiple competing oracles. Yeah, and different factions, different oracles struggling to bring theirs together. Now, remember, divination isn't just, or maybe it's make-believe. There is the idea that divination isn't just reading the future. Remember, like we have ESP and clairvoyance. It is extending your senses beyond your body. So while the people who are doing the precognitive abilities might be at the higher levels of ability, the lower level ones, the ones that are watching you, watching you when you sleep, looking around corners, the prototypical fantasy drone operators that are watching people, I think that part of it as well, the ground level of divination, I think, is something with the player characters you can really get a sense of paranoia, people watching them. Like, for example, I'm going to just use the word vigilant. So the vigilant in a city might be able to close their eyes and look through the other eyes of those around the city. So when the player walks through the city town, the commoners start to stare at them, because there is some other greater power watching the player's every move, from the old lady on the rocking chair to the young child that was lost, and they all start staring at the PC, and you're like, "Uh-oh, I can't get away with anything." There might be, it's the floating eyeballs, in the darkness when people are closing their doors and watching them and such like that. Where are you guys going with the spare gnome and the MacGuffin is a frog that the oracles have to lick? I don't. Well, there may be the ability to detect, to read the future might require like rituals or something of that nature. I could see a crucible of like the people who they probably will always be the protected class. Now we're assuming that, like in fiction, oracles tend to be born to it. It's not necessarily a desired job, because if you can see what's going to happen, it takes away a lot of free will. It starts to erode away the idea that you have free will. But given that this position, these vigilants might be uh, born to it, more sorcerer than like wizard or cleric, even though the character class doesn't really matter. I could see there being like um, having to go through a number of predetermined actions to get to a thing, like um, being near death's door, being left out in the elements, or something like that. So that therefore it would keep the population down. But competing guilds of oracles might be a thing, though, especially depending on how accurate they are, or how, and it might be based on like accuracy, how much distance in the future, how the images come to a person. Like, do they draw images on paper with their eyes blinded or something, or do they speak in tongues, or is it, you know, are does it require a group of three of them to be together, that you know, it takes 101 days before they can predict the future yet again, or something like that. I don't know, but it would be, adding in these limitations to it might be a good way for the player characters to throw a monkey wrench into the system. Like, oh, the three oracles have locked themselves away. All right, we've got 8 days, because on the 9th day they come out and proclaim what the future is, and once everyone knows, it's bound to happen. Yeah. The Patchwork Gray mentions, surely the attention would be focused on nobles and other powerful types first. Maybe no hereditary nobles or people divine who should rule. But anyway, how does government work when it can't hide? That's a pretty interesting thing. Because we often assume when it comes to like magic that there's no counter to the magic, even though there is counterspell. But I mean, we often assume if someone's got a fireball, there's no resistance to it. And when it comes to like divination and scrying and things like that, I wonder if these nobles or this governmental system can't hide, and that information is given to the people, I wonder how it could be manipulated, or could it be manipulated? It's hard to tell. I don't know. Because we don't live, it's hard for us to imagine a world in which government is completely transparent. I don't think any of us has ever lived in a world like that, unless you lived in like a small village or something. But yeah, Michael says there's a Doctor Strange comic where he sees all the invisible magical beings that influence daily actions. There are symbiotes and parasites that affect behaviors or feed off of them. Ooh, that's scary. Ooh, that's that's really scary. Ooh, I don't like that. Vampanoids, imagine a drug that you smoked. Oh, that should have been yesterday. Oh man. Yeah, that should have been yesterday. Mike says divination is the ability to see past the norm in a world where the strangeness affects the world in a way that perceiving it might drive one mad. Do you really want to see beyond? You know, there's maybe a really cool adversary in this kind of world are the things that once you perceive them, they become real to you, because that would be pretty interesting. Like go to Vampanoid's comment about you know, going on a trip. It would be interesting. Like no one has ever seen a displacer beast until you see it, and the minute you see it, it turns to you and wants to kill you. And so while it's running through the streets chasing you down, not only do people not perceive it, it doesn't even affect them. So that would be an interesting adversarial the curse of the power, where the player characters, sure, they have extrasensory abilities, but when they see someone, like they can see the trauma or the nightmares someone is having, or the little parasitic and symbiotic animals that are all over people that are affecting their daily decisions in life. And then they start going after the player characters. I like that. I like that idea, because especially when it would be pretty interesting if one player character is being attacked by a displacer beast, but the other player characters don't see it. All they see are the claw marks and the bites and stuff. That'd be kind of weird. And Cam's like, write your own future with the Raven shit guild. Deadman brings up the video game. In the video game Kingdoms of Amalur, you play as a fateless one. And having no fate, again, it could be a physical thing. Maybe the unbound, the fateless are marked in some way, like a physical marking, like a tattoo or branding or a mark on their face or back of the hand or something. This might be something that is seen. So when a fateless one walks into a major city and there are watchers, there are the vigilant around, they might have a problem with the player characters. Vampanoid says this sounds like something from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, like being affected by the fates and such. Like Constantine the movie, once you see demons and angels, you cannot unsee it. Now demons will hunt you. I like that idea. I like that idea a lot. I could see, going back a little bit to the governmental thing, I could see maybe people in power and government, there's a constant flux, because there's the idea of like hiding your intentions from the public. The public then sees those intentions, and there's a constant like, well, I'll step up to be the person because we all know this other person was corrupt. And so there might be this constant roiling turnover of leadership and whatnot. So I could see that both being, that would be pretty interesting to have, where the nobles are constantly being like kicked out and coming back and getting kicked out again or something. Yeah, Harry, hey, what's up? Harry mentions, depending on your, GM working the game mechanics used in my game, a young woman sitting in a trance state, she is told the dream, and her response, this day an enemy of the empire dies. And that might be really, what an easy way to throw a hook into the game, right? A player character goes to sleep, wakes up with a strange dream, that dream becomes the mission, and you're off and running, right? Or the players are agents of a particular vigilant cult, or maybe using the word, is it? Maybe they are part of like a defensive measure of rebels or something, and they have their own people who are predicting it, and they're like, in 3 days hence, the new dictator of the evil empire will arrive in the city, and the PCs are like, all right, we got 3 days to get there, and they get there, and then they see nothing but like thousands of refugees pouring into the city, and they're like, oh, how are we going to find this person? It unfortunately, it might be the moral and ethical implications of killing the child before they become the evil dictator may also happen as well, because that happens to be a big thing in time fate styled stories, where you know what's going to happen, but to stop it requires you to do things you might not want to agree with. Vince mentions, or with death in Discworld, only some can see him, and most who see the world as it really is tend to avoid this experience at all costs. Yeah, I like it. There might the confluence, and this is no disrespect to people who are suffering through various levels of mental illness, because in effect all of us at some period in our lives have mental afflictions of some sort or another, temporary and or permanent. But it could be a tenuous relationship between mental afflictions and divination, and I think the two probably go hand in hand. So it may also be that maybe people don't believe that people like to believe the thing that benefits them most and disbelieve the thing that doesn't. Going back to the Oedipus Rex story about the king who's being told, oh, there are two great prophecies. One, you'll become a great king and lead and become dictator of the countryside. And they're like, yeah, I knew I would be. And the second one is you'll be killed by your son. And they're like, well, that's not going to happen to me. So maybe the oracles in this world, while people want them and don't want to get rid of them, they also aren't quite trusted. Especially when they hand out bad information to individuals. Like Vampone says, like, killing baby Hitler. Yeah, not sure how often there are some player characters that are like, I don't feel anything about this. Sure thing. Where are my experience points at? But yeah, that may be a possibility. Mike co-host says, cannot remember the name of the teacher from Harry Potter who taught divination. She would have visions and not remember having them. That's different. That would be pretty interesting. So, someone has a vision of the future, but they don't know. But the information is maybe written in a book that you don't have access to. That would be pretty cool. Vince says, I had an oracle character in one of my games, and I liked to use her in unexpected ways. For example, she always has the favorite dish of the person prepared, even if they show up unannounced. That's awesome. I like little things like that. I like a little thing like that. They're like, oh no, I ripped my sock. And someone's like, that's why I brought needle and thread today. I didn't know why I'd need it, but yep. Oh man. Vampanoy mentions it was Professor Trelawney? Trelawney. Butchering the pronunciation. Oh man. So going back up into the chat here. Michael mentions the follow-up mechanic to that thought. Visions could be written on cards. Then the one having the vision places the card, words facing out on their forehead. The rest of the players see the words. Oh yeah. And there are games like that where you yourself never see what's on the card, but everyone else sees it. That's pretty nasty if you don't know your own vision, but everyone else sees it. I like that. Patchwork Gray says, so I'm done with PC diviners asking, I have a vision, what do I see? It's like, you play a diviner, you tell me the vision. If I can work it in, great. If I fail, you get bonus XP. I like the idea of like, hey, you tell me what the vision is. Now, of course, you're going to have a player character that's like, well, does it mean I automatically get to do the killing strike on the dragon or something? And it's like, well, don't be an ass. But yeah. Now that is misinterpretation. So Vince mentions, where she gives a weird prophecy like, at 1311 duck, and later that day they walk down a cave and their watch shows 1311 and they just ducked down and avoided a fireball over their head. Now it could be, misinterpretation is always the big thing, right? Like the Oedipus Rex story, the young boy who finds out there's a destiny, he's going to kill his dad and marry his mom and leaves town to avoid it. The idea that where the king is like, will I be killed today? And someone goes, so, the oracle says, yes, someone will kill you today. And then come to find out that the king is like, fine, an assassin's going to try to kill me in my castle. I'm going to leave and go out on a hunt. And then maybe one of his own, I don't know, they're on a ride and one of his own men bumps into him, knocks him down, bumps his head. And for like 10 seconds, he's actually dead and comes back to life. Like the details of the prophecy might be vague on purpose because we're misinterpreting what it's like. So I like that. Oops. Wait. Oops. I missed the. There we go. Vince is like, I liked Trelawney. You always think you always think she sucks at divination, and later you found out that all the stuff she teaches is relatively useless, but she had real prophecies without knowing it. Yeah, and it goes on to say, even though most of the stuff she prophesized in her classes actually came true, even if it was very vague at best. And that's the hard part about prophecies in role playing games, right? You have to be vague enough to allow the player characters to fall into the prophecy without railroading it. And that could be pretty difficult, but I think if you make it vague, like for example, maybe they are like one word prophecies, or they're just images like a monolithic stone, a thunderstorm, a raven, like it might be something of that nature. And then when the PCs are walking through the woods and they go, wow, there's a raven sitting on a giant stone, it looks like a monolith. Of course we're going to be attacked by orcs, or whatever, right? And that thing may yeah, Mike Gould brings up a good example. Like, look, I'll make up weird shit for visions. Wings unbound, seek the hand with no fingers. Right. String together a bunch of like adjectives and nouns, and say it with gusto and gravitas, and you're done, right? Wings unbound, seek the hand with no fingers. What the hell does that mean? I don't know, but the person sure did say it like it was important. So, man, Vince says, I like the card idea. In Magic the Gathering, there are some cards that allow you to secretly write down something, mostly a player, and later you can, for example, counter something he does. And part 2. A great gotcha moment. You could do something similar with divination. Write down a person or situation and say you had a prophecy secretly, and later you can gotcha the GM and activate an effect. I like that idea. I like that a lot. Like, hey, everyone write down. It might be the person, place, or thing idea, right? Like, write down a person, a place, and a thing, and no proper nouns. Like a person might be a cook, a cattle driver, a guard. A place might be town square, or an open glen, or castle tower. And a thing might be a pocket watch, a small crystal, right? And then you maybe you have some other things for players to figure out, right? And then when during the game, if that thing happens, the player again flips up the card, and it's like, ha, I predicted this to be happen. I'd go for that. Yeah, I give bonuses or advantage, like in 5th edition, I give advantage for that. Cam comes up with one. A black wolf will come at midnight. And of course, the black wolf might be, maybe there's a black marketeer named the Black Wolf, or maybe there's someone who has a large black wolf tattoo on their shoulder, or maybe there's a visitor from a distant land who's wearing a black wolf pelt, black wolf pelt with it over their head or shoulder or something. Or maybe they're from a mercenary gang of brutalistic warriors or something known as the Black Wolves. Or maybe someone has a pet and it just happens to be a small puppy, and it's a small black wolf puppy that they saved because the mama wolf was killed by a stag or something like that. Yep. Yep, like Cameron says, the Black Wolf could be just an emblem. And it might be even something like, oh, it's just an emblem on the wall that everybody walks past and ignores because it's been, rubbed out or something, like graffiti or whatever. Like the DMs. Sorry. Harry mentions you will be gravely injured saving an innocent. Yeah, I mean anything like that. And listen. If the player knows that the prophecy is they'll be gravely injured saving an innocent, maybe a player character will put themselves in danger to save that innocent, thereby creating the effect. But, Vince says, the big bad evil guy will approach me trying to hit me with his mace. Written down. Now you can root for him, and he rolls his save with disadvantage, like I activate my trap card. Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, absolutely. Either because you predicted it was going to happen and you avoid it, or you predicted it was going to happen and it does happen, and then you get some kind of benefit from something later on, maybe. Um, Cam brings up the wolf coming at midnight. Says it could be a literal wolf, or it could be that one wolf, or like wolf whale monster from one of the Inuit mythologies that I can remember. Can't remember the name of, like Wendigo or something. I don't. That's the only one I know from like the Inuit mythology is the Wendigo. But yeah, um, I don't know. Vince answers that uh, in the chat. Anyway, so Michael says riddles made from prophecies are as old as time. I ran one riddle called the Dance of Three in one Thole campaign. They thought the mother with two daughters were people, but it was astronomy. Hmm. Thole is a planet with two moons. When the three celestial bodies line up, a gate opens. I like that. Okay, there we go. Yeah, Michael says Wendigo is Algonquin. Okay, I figured I was wrong. I, I didn't. I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken. Right? That's the thing. But yeah, I think another part of divination, if we want to, is okay. Okay, I'm going to rewind just slightly here, but tell. We all fear what the future brings. But if we have people who can sense things outside of their bodies, we can see things beyond sight, right? It's the they live concept. That means that maybe there are things out there that we need to see in the first place to avoid, which would be pretty interesting to have a society of people who are paranoid, who don't see. We, the uninitiated, don't see anything, but people are like locking their doors. They're paranoid. They don't like you. Um, all that kind of stuff. And it is the how can I explain this? Once the player character's eyes are opened, they then see the dangers that are out there. But for the uninitiated, maybe they don't see anything. And people are being murdered and killed, and people that are on traveling the roads are attacked by invisible stalker like monsters that are out there, shape changers and whatnot. So while the divination powers might be out of control, they might be needed because maybe shape changers, invisible creatures, what's something else? The illusionary monsters and illusions and things like you guys mentioned earlier are such a hazard that having the power to divine, to see through the ESP and all that is needed to survive in a world where invisible stalkers and shape changers and lycanthropes and all that kind of stuff are running rampant. Because I'm trying to come up with this could be a self-fulfilled world in which the power to have divination causes its own problems. But I'm also thinking of a reason like, well, why wouldn't there be large groups who are like, we need to kill all diviners, right? Like we need to kill them because they're causing such an issue, and it's because we need them. And even on a smaller scale, they're recruited. Like they might be like forward observers and scouts and things like that, or maybe even rear observers who are able to navigate through a dangerous world where the very monsters are like, predators hiding in the woods or something like that. So, yeah. Let's see. Cameron says a prediction could lead to a series of clues that lead through multiple adventures. Like with the Black Wolf, one could keep seeing black wolves in different forms, which connects the pieces. And that would be very interesting for players to like. I like that idea. I know you're not making a reference to this, but it could be the Dances with Wolves idea where important events are linked with the foreshadowing of images and turns of phrases and objects in the world that alert the player characters that something important is happening. So a player character may have an intrinsic tie to the Black Wolf, and every time a Black Wolf shows up in any form, it's important to that situation. So when the player characters are going through the woods and a Black Wolf howls in the distance, silhouetted on a full moon, the player character's like, we better pull our weapons. And everyone's like, well, why? And they're like, there's danger nearby, Whereas when they go into the city and they see an emblem on the side of a wall that looks like the head of a Black Wolf or something, they're like, there's danger again, things like that, So I could see tying certain actions or certain capabilities even, or giving players clues like, there's an owl sitting on a ledge, and a player character who's attached to the owl is like, what does the owl see? The owl looks you in the eye and gives you, a chill goes down your spine, and you're like, we're walking into a trap, even though you have no clue to that except for seeing that owl. Vince mentions, another of our co-hosts says, the world is full of random dangers like weird weather or lava sprouting from the ground, and without diviners, all would die. I like that too, where the world is far more chaotic than we think it is, like our present day world. And so to navigate it, you need diviners to go like, that's an open grassy field with daisies and stuff, and everyone's like, no, you don't want to go through there. And all of a sudden there's like snakes and earthquakes and, like you said, lava shooting out the ground, and the earth splits open and whatnot. I could see that. I see that very much. Cam brings up the fact that a symbol you've seen could become a warning sign for you. Like if you see 4 flying crows, a battle is about to happen. I like that a lot. I very much like that a lot. And you could even recontextualize capabilities. Like instead of going, I use a healing spell on myself, you get shot with an arrow, go down, and a Black Wolf comes up and sniffs you in the ear, or lays next to your body, and then you awaken to rise again to join the battle. And then you look around to see where the Black Wolf is, but you don't see the Black Wolf. All you see are like paw marks or something like that. I would absolutely recontextualize the narrative around something like that. That would be really awesome. I cast Magic Missile. Well, maybe your Magic Missile is just those 4 flying crows that pelts the hell out of somebody and then they fly away or something. That would be awesome. Mike Gould says, in a world where mimics are everywhere, a society may exist where they develop a symbiosis. A diviner may see a mimic and panic kill one, upsetting the balance and causing a maximum overdrive. Ooh, so they're not there to kill them. They're just there to know that they exist, but not mess with the balance. I like that as well. Harry brings up the Doctor Who had the Bad Wolf episodes. I'm not a Doctor Who person. Sorry. I wish I was. I don't know how. That's a big empty space in my geekdom. That is a huge empty space. Patchwork Gray says identities like Black Wolf can be adopted too. If the prophecy states that the Black Wolf will take the throne, every wannabe will try to be the Black Wolf. Lots of imposters to weed through. Oh, hells yes. Yeah, like maybe the danger isn't just a prophecy, but who knows it, right? The king doesn't want those words to get out, but if it's written in a book somewhere, and the book is constantly writing those things down, you have to get to the book first to see it. Because you're right, maybe a whole bunch of randos want to become the Black Wolf to take the throne, and maybe it's true. If one of those randos takes the throne, they will become the Black Wolf that dominates for, I don't know, a decade and a half or something. Mike says, my mom used to quote a rhyme: 1 crow sorrow, 2 crows joy, 3 crows a letter, 4 crows a boy, and so on. Divination through folk poetry. That has happened a lot, right? Like it's like anecdotal prophesizing. I don't know how to and also it's a little bit of self-fulfilled prophecy in a way, because we hear a thing, we think a thing's going to happen, so then when we see the thing happen, we go, hey, we predicted it, right? Like we do that with our own geekdom, in our own fandom, right? Where we go, hey, I wonder. We watch what happens has been happening now. We watch a television show. We say, I get. I guess this is what's going to happen in the television show, and of course, everybody predicts everything. So when one of those predictions comes through, they puff their chest out, and they're like, "Of course, I predicted it." You're like, "Well, no, you didn't. You just threw like 30 things at the wall, and one of them happened to become true." So yeah, goes on to say she would avoid areas that had a single crow. I I'm really liking this physical representation of an ephemeral thing in the future. I'm really liking this a lot. I'm liking it a lot. Cameron says, "Are those answered Patchwork's comment says are those imposters all the dead characters the Black Wolf player has played in the past?" Oh, like DCC, it's the funnel. They're all dead because they're all your old player characters. Although it would be funny if they're all your brand new player characters too. Yeah, I'm with Vince. Vince mentions that I like folk magic, seeing signs and using old superstitions as something necessary to survive. And maybe this world is cyclical. So much like George R. R. Martin has written Game of Thrones, all of the things that we are going through presently have already happened in the past. And this is a cycle of those things happening again. So maybe the divinations have already happened. Like, it's not like an oracle goes, "Oh, I had a dream." Maybe it is deciphering, like, bardic stories have already taken place that are all generally vague. And there's these cantos or something that people have been reading through, and they are finding out where and when these things will happen because this has already happened before. And even those people that where it happened in the past, it happened to them before. So that might be interesting as well. Um, Mike Gould mentions about says if a bird ran into her window and died from the collision, she would believe that there would be a death in the family. Ooh, now honestly, that's not quite uncommon. To be honest with you, when it comes, I mean, it's the whole kids step on a crack, break your mama's back, or breaking a mirror with bad luck, or walking under a ladder. There's a ton of stuff. Throwing salt over your shoulder, knock on wood. I mean, there's a ton of those things. If you could find a list of them online, which there has to be, and then insert them into the game world where a mirror breaks and everyone looks around and they're just like, "Oh shit," and then that's the excuse for you as the game master, dungeon master, to make a thing happen. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. Patchwork mentions, "I'm about to pass out before work later, but don't forget to smash that like and share for DBJ. He's the #1 dungeon master therapy stream on the web." Thank you so much. Well, I can't take credit for that. You guys are my co-hosts, so technically, smashing the like and share actually brings about more attention to you guys, as well as myself. So yes, I would appreciate that. But and also, hell, just getting, for those of us in the States, if you're up this like Cam, the Warrior, 3 a.m. in the morning, like if you guys are up at the crack of dawn, I really appreciate it. I know there are just as many people who catch the show much later, and there's no problems with that. I wish I have to come up with a system to communicate with people who aren't up that old, but yeah. So really appreciate that, Kiwi. I really appreciate it, because Kiwi's been I know you've been lurking in the backgrounds, which I appreciate, and I hope you're still doing your music and stuff as well. I don't forget, I've been memorizing that. Michael's a DBJ, the DM group, DM group therapy. All right, everyone, bring your 13th level characters. Do you want to say anything? I'm a barbarian, and I've been a murder hobo for 17 years. Thank you very much for coming, for speaking up. I've been a murder hobo, and I don't want to be. Thanks, Vince. All right, guys. Okay. That's enough. That's enough with the compliments and stuff. I appreciate it, but thank you. We're getting to the end, so maybe you can start dumping. Oh man, huh? What do you mean you don't show up? What up? What? You're always here, dude. You are always here. Patchwork says we hide from the sun. In fact, the window behind you makes me nervous. You know what? It's funny because it, if you watch the show, you'll notice that the show starts out in the dark because the sun hasn't come up, and then the wind that's the sun facing towards the west, which is why it looks like it's washed out in the background. So yeah. Oh man. Oh, Vince is like, I would love to do a co-host. I would love to do a co-host again. Yeah. Oh yeah. We've had a number of episodes where we co-hosted. We didn't just co-host. We world built. Yeah. We world built. I guess would be the thing. Oh, it's because it wouldn't let you show. Yeah. It wouldn't let you put in the links to the. Yeah, Restream is another filter through which YouTube and Twitch and other services are being prevented from going through, right? So even if you're allowed to post it on YouTube, it's not allowing it to come through Restream. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we sure did. Vince mentions the fact that for you guys who don't know, yeah, we did a class world building where we took every single character class and built a world using that character class as the basis for that world, like the barbarian setting, and we did a bardic setting and a druidic setting. Yeah, we did the whole thing. Yeah, I love it. Kiwi says it's my job to drum up compliments for the tip jar. As a performer, DBJ, compliments are the verbal equivalent of buying you a beer. I cannot agree with that more. I that is very true. That is extremely true. I keep hitting the. Well, actually, it's funny because Restream posts this up. Congratulations, you've received 100 messages today with Restream chat. That's kind of cool. So that's interesting. Cam is like, hello, this is my first time here. My name's Tim, and I don't think I should be technically considered a rules lawyer because my Jeremy Crawford's definitions. Yeah. Technically, I'm not a rules lawyer. Oh, yes, you are. You need an intervention. Oh, man. You guys, Vince is like, I could talk about my new RPG I made, Visitors, The Infection, if you'd be interested. It's based on World of Darkness. Yeah. Oh man. Dude, I am still considering doing a spotlight like type of. I'll have to figure out how to do it, but I would love to bring on, like, do a week of like spotlighting and stuff like that. Bring people in, talk about what they're working on. Hell, I to be honest with you, if you guys are content creators out there, and I'm seriously, as an invite, I know it can be a little complicated to change your avatar name, but if you're a content creator, me mentioning your title of what you're doing every time I read a comment in itself becomes its own advertisement, if that makes sense, right? So yeah. Applause. I live in the applause. I live in it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. We've come to the end. Talk about divination. Maybe we could have talked a little bit more about like the types of adversaries we would have, like things that can't be detected, or big BBEGs that are out there that are trying to kidnap, kill, or manipulate the Oracle network or something. Or maybe there are powerful entities on the horizon, and we all know they're on the horizon, but society is eating itself. They're eating the rich, basically. It's eating itself to figure out who's going to live when, the pot of gold is at the end of time or something like that. But yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, Vince. Oh yeah, hit me up. Yeah. He says thank you. I will hit you up on Facebook. Maybe we could do something next week. I still have vacation then, and I know who you are on Facebook. I mean, I know. Yes. So if you show up or just DM me or something like that, no big deal. Absolutely. Foolish Kiwi says, "Have a good day, fellows. And as soon as my new desk rig is up, prepare for some goodness sent to all the crowd in here." Oh, cool, cool. Absolutely, absolutely. I look forward to it. As a matter of fact, maybe improve on the subtle but pretty basic stuff that's happening audio wise in the background. So anyway, guys, you guys have a great one. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Please, again, the usual calls to action: like, share, subscribe, spread the word, let people know what's going on this channel, what you guys and what we do here. Of course, tomorrow we go into enchantment magic. Enchantments, yeah, yes. Ooh, where my mind went. We're going to go in enchantment magic. That's the power of affecting the mind, other than illusions. So mind control and reading minds and things. Of course, this whole series, there's always something related to the next one. So reading people's minds is kind of predictive in many ways to know what they're about to do. So it does have a little bit to do with divination as well. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think tomorrow is enchantment magic. Yeah, Cam, everybody have a good one. Listen, it here in the States it's early as F. So yeah, tomorrow is enchantment there, Mike. And lastly, please go to levelup5e.com. Check out the playtest materials, advanced 5th edition. It's not Pathfinder, and this is created by N-World. I'm one of the contributing writers. I'm really proud to have worked on this project, and they paid me pretty good too. So I feel like I have to do my duty to push this project. There's tons of playtest material. Please check out levelup5e.com. Promoted by N-World. The Kickstarter will be starting soon. When that Kickstarter starts, you're going to see me promote this even more. So just be prepared for that, because I am a content creator. So just be aware of that. I've worked with so far I've written for N-World and Onyx Path Publishing. Their Kickstarter hasn't started yet because they're a couple Kickstarters behind, but yeah, you'll see what's going on. So absolutely positively, thank you there, Dead Man. And of course, we're using Restream, both Twitch and YouTube. Got that link, so I really appreciate that. Guys, have a great one. I will see thee later. Peace.